Okay, Shabbat Shalom. We're not starting yet. We're just doing a little sound check to make sure that everything's coming through. The folks at home. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu. The broadcaster's not currently streamed. Well, that will make it challenging. Here. All right, is the Shabbat Shalom, Will? Is the sound coming through? That's the question for the folks watching back home. It sounds good in here, doesn't it? Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We're going to see in just a minute. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. It's good to be together. It's good to have those joining from home, from near and far. As we bring in Shabbat, we start on page 3, Hine ma tovu manayim. It's always a blessing when we can be together. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tovu manayim. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for those who are present for making minyan. Thank you for those who are watching on our live stream feed. Of course, we count you in minyan as well. It's good to be together. As you can tell, I am solo tonight. Rabbi Karen is taking a Shabbat off, and of course, I owe her a few, as my stint at camp was a little longer than hers, and she was holding down the fort. If you are at home, we are in our special Mishkan Halev Sidur, which is a special Sidur for the month of Elul, the month leading into the high holidays, and also for Slichot. So when you click on the link, you'll see a variety of Sidurim that you can click on. Make sure it's the gold cover that says Mishkan HaNefesh, dwelling place of the soul. That's where we are in this first Shabbat in the month of Elul, month leading us towards the new year. I want to invite you to just take a moment. You can wave a Shabbat Shalom, smile with your eyes to those around you, and we'll continue. I'm on page 5 as I offer this Yiddish poem, of course, an English translation, praying the sunset prayer. I'll let you in on a secret about how one should pray the sunset prayer. It's a juicy bit of praying, like strolling on grass. Nobody's chasing you. Nobody hurries you. You walk toward your Creator with gifts in pure, empty hands. The words are golden. Their meaning is transparent. It's as though they're saying them for the first time. If you don't catch on that you should feel a little elevated, you're not praying the sunset prayer. The tune is sheer simplicity. You're just lending a helping hand to the sinking day. It's a heavy responsibility. You take a created day and you slip it into the archive of life, where all our lived out days are lying together. The day is departing with a quiet kiss. It lies open at your feet while you stand saying the blessings. You can't create anything yourself, but you can lead the day to its end and see clearly the smile of its going down. See how whole it all is, not diminished for a second. How you age with the days that keep dawning, how you bring your lived out day as a gift to eternity. The unique piece of this Siddur is that it starts to take pieces of psalms, pieces of liturgy that point us to our high holidays. And so as we start Kabbalat Shabbat, which is all about taking the psalms and creating a moment to enter Shabbat, we turn to Psalm 121, which of course we'll sing on Rosh Hashanah. Asa'inai el heharim, we lift our eyes towards the mountains, looking for the source of our help. Asa'inai el heharim, me'ayin yavo, Ezri, page 9. Esa einai el teharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa einai el teharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa einai el teharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Ba'aretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Ba'aretz Tehessa Einai Tehel Heharim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Tehessa Einai Tehel Heharim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Ba'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Ba'aretz. And we continue on page 10, and we invite Sandra Traster to kindle and bless our Shabbat candles. And Sandra,
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We're going to do something a little bit differently tonight. I'm actually going to offer my brief drosh, a teaching right now in the service. And there's method to this madness. The reason is that we are approaching L'Chadodi, and there's a connection between L'Chadodi and not only our Haftarah for this week, but the Haftarah cycle in which we find ourselves. So I wanted to share a few thoughts about that and point some things out that I hope you find as interesting and meaningful as I do. So right now in our year, we're in a period of 7 Haftarot of consolation. And so you might ask, if we're in the period of Haftarot of consolation, what is the consoling being done? So these are 7 Haftarot that follow on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, of course, is the commemoration of not only the destruction of the first temple and the second temple, but other destructions, other exiles throughout our people's history that are thought to have taken place or did take place at this season of late summer. And of course, in Tisha B'Av, with the destruction of the first and second temple, and especially the first temple, we remember that the Babylonians come in and Jerusalem is destroyed, and many of our people are brought to Babylonia in exile. And the tradition teaches that this exile happens because the people don't listen to the prophets. They don't heed the prophets saying, hey, Israelites, you're not living up to the covenant. You are not creating a society of justice. The tradition teaches that the first temple is destroyed because the people are worshiping other gods. Maybe it's stones, maybe it's trees, but maybe it's also material gain. Maybe it's also sacrificing children to other gods, and the temple was destroyed on account of violence that Israelite society was perpetuating against one another. And so this brings on God withdrawing, in a sense. The prophets even say that God allows the Babylonians to come in and the people are brought into exile. Well, as soon as that happens, particularly in the latter half of the book of Isaiah, the prophet starts to comfort the people and assure the people that God will take them back. And in taking them back spiritually, God will also take them back physically to their land, where Jerusalem will be rebuilt, where degradation will be over and joy will return. The Haftarah for this week does in fact come from Isaiah chapters 51:12 through 52:12. For the Torah portion, Shoftim, meaning judges. So what does this Haftarah in particular have to do with Shabbat? The connection is that many of the verses in Lachadodi are actually adapted from the prophet Isaiah. So if you turn right now in your Siddur to page 22, and you'll see that we have verses in this book. It's funny, I was in our regular Shabbat Siddur, we have all 9 verses of Lachadodi. But as you know, we always sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And in this book, when they did it, they just put in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, which wasn't helpful for my Devar Torah this week. But that's okay. If we look at the here, the 4th paragraph, we see hitoreri, hitoreri, and that comes from Isaiah 51:17. Hitoreri, rouse yourself, rise up, Jerusalem. And then it goes on to say, Uri, Uri, awake, awake, clothe yourself in strength, O Zion, array yourself in robes of splendor. And if we look at that 4th paragraph, we see in Lachadodi, it says, wake up, arise, rise up and shine. Your light has come, a light divine. Sing out in praise, city of gold. The glory of God you will behold. And if we had the actual 4th verse of Lachadodi, we'd see more words of the prophet. Hit na'ari ma'afar kumi, leave shibigde tifartech ami. The idea of shaking off the dust of exile, the dust of destruction. Put on your fine clothes because something is happening. So why these verses for Lachadodi is really interesting. Lachadodi is a fairly new creative service in the Jewish tradition. Before 500 years ago, there was no Kabbalat Shabbat. There was no Lachadodi. Yes, I said 500 years is fairly new in the grand scheme of Jewish history. So 500 years ago, in the 16th century, the mystics of Tzfat, who in fact were a remnant of the Spanish exile, which took place on Tisha B'Av, relocate and settle in this beautiful mountainous community of Tzfat, and they say, we need a beautiful service to invigorate our souls, to bring joy into our lives. And they take the imagery of Isaiah here in our Haftarah, because Shabbat itself is a weekly reminder, a weekly exit from exile, a weekly sense of peace and wholeness, an island of holiness in an imperfect world. So as they're trying to make sense of their own experience of exile, they create this service that pulls from the prophets a reminder of the ability to overcome sadness and an ability to overcome dislocation. And they would actually go out to the hills and they would greet the Shabbat bride. And that's also reminiscent of words of the prophet from this Torah portion, which we're going to sing a little later. Ma navu al heharim raglei mevaser mashmiya shalom. How beautiful on the mountains are the running legs of the herald going over the mountaintops, not because there was a text that could be sent. All you could do was have a really fast messenger, and that messenger was coming to announce that exile was over, that return was near. In the end, how does this all come together for our season? The wisdom of Judaism is that there's an intersection between the history and the cycles and seasons of our people and our own personal history, our own personal lives. These haftarot in the 7 haftarot of consolation plug into the history of our people, reminding us that exile would be over after destruction. We're in a period of the year personally where we're so far from last year's high holidays. Think about the mistakes we've made. Think about how we've strayed perhaps from the things that we promised to do last Yom Kippur. And so personally in our lives, our estrangement from God hopefully is about to come to an end as we refocus during the high holiday season. And of course, each Shabbat, no matter when it is in our year, we take the things that we've lived through the week, the goods, the bads, the happy, the sad, ups and downs, and we set them aside for a moment and we just give thanks and try to return and reunite with that which is good, our families, our communities, our sense of gratitude. Shabbat Shalom. That was the drosh, so there's no Devar Torah later. We're just going to pray now, and now we're going to go into Lachadodi, hopefully with that sense of our month of Elul and return, and our sense of Shabbat. This is a melody that is actually Argentinian in origin, from the Jewish community in Argentina. And one thing that I will say about their melodies is that they're beautiful and bring a sense, I think, of joy. So we've sung this before, but it's been a few years here. So I thought it would be nice, given the Devar Torah, to bring it back. We'll sing the chorus a couple of times. I think you'll catch on. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 bnei Shabbat, bnei Shabbat nekabela, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 bnei Shabbat. Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad yishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad Ushmo echad V'shem u'tiferet V'litila Yai lai lai Ya la 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 lai lecha dodi Ya la 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 lai likrat kala Ya la 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 bnei Shabbat Bnei Shabbat nekabela מראש מקדם אסוכה סוף מעשה מחשבה תחילה די לי 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 לך דודי לי לקראת קלה לי בני שבת נקבלה התעוררי כי באורך ומאורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה די לי 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 לך דודי לי לקראת קלה לי בני שבת נקבלה. We rise to greet Shabbat. Toi v'shalom Hateret malah Gam b'simcha u'cholam toch emunei am segula boi chala You can find Chatzi Kaddish on page 24. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon U'chaye dechol beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman kariv Ve'imeru amin Yehesh meraba mevorach Le'ala mulal me'al maya Yitbarach v'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei Kudesha brichu Leila min kol berchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma Ve'imeru Amen. On page 26, the call to worship, start with words of English. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening, O God, to my prayer? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach lai lai lai, yalla 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 lai lai lai. Continue on page 29 together. Holy is the twilight, the realm of in-between. And so our sages taught, pray in the moments when light and darkness touch. We are all twilight people beyond categories and labels. May the sacred in-between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, widen our vision. Let it illumine our way to the God who transcends all boundaries and definitions. Blessed are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari Varavi. We continue together on page 30. Love beyond all space and time. Your love enfolds your people, Yisrael. We receive it in your teaching, your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and when we rise up, and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are our very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. May be seated, and we continue on page 34. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantam levanecha dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem. Amen. As we begin the month of Elul, we think about that return, and we think about the many returns our people have made, especially the one we're about to pray, Michamocha, leaving Mitzrayim, the narrow places of Egypt and coming to Midbar, to the desert, to receive Torah, and on to Eretz Yisrael, the promised land. And as we enter Elul, we think about that promise of leaving narrow places, of leaving the narrowness of ego and of self, of stretching out towards others, towards the source of all life, to the best in us, and that should give us a sense of hope and joy. And I don't know if you noticed, but the birds outside are responding to our prayers. They are singing along. We must be doing something right in here. You can find Micha Mocha on page 40. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, yai la lai lai la 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot osefele, Torah tehilot osefele. מלכותך ובניך, פוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, צאליאנו ואמרו, צאליאנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai, yai la lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני Gal Yisrael. We pray for peace. We pray for a Sukkot Shalom as we bring this day to an end, that we might rise up to life renewed, that all who are in need of Sukkah, of peace, might find that, bringing them health, bring them goodness. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Lehamidenu Shomrei Nu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Lehamidenu Malkeinu Lechaim Ushmor Tzetenu Uvoenu Lechaim Ushalom Me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Hamidenu Shomrei Nu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Hamidenu Shmalkein Nu Lechaim. Page 46. Veshamru bnei Israel et hashabat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And we turn to the Amidah, our standing prayer on page 48. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, u'mevi Geula livnei v'neihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav Loshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel Chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishene afar, Micha mocha ba'al givurot, Umido melach, Lech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. Before we have a few moments of silent prayer, page 69, offer a gift a blessing for all the gifts that we receive. For the gifts I received today, air in my lungs, pulse in my veins, my restless mind alive and curious, awakening suddenly to beauty, for love and the memory of love, forgiveness when I didn't deserve it, another chance at life. Let my soul give thanks to you. Let me not forget your kindness. Take a few moments for silence. As we come out of our silent prayer, we bring the words of our Haftarah, the prophet Isaiah, into our sanctuary, into our homes. For those who are here, you have the strip of paper. Manavu al heharim ragle mevaser. How beautiful, how pleasant are the running legs of the messenger bringing good tidings. Mashmia Yeshua, who announces salvation. Mashmia Shalom, who brings and announces fullness. This old Israeli folk melody to the words of the prophets. Manavu al heharim rageleha mevaser. O manavu al heharim rageleha mevaser. Mashemia Yeshua, Mashemia Shalom. Mashemia Yeshua, Mashemia Shalom. Manavu al heharim rageleha mevaser. O manavu al heharim rageleha mevaser. Mashemia Yeshua, Mashemia Shalom. Mashemia Yeshua, Mashemia Shalom. Manavu al heharim rageleha mevaser. O manavu al heharim rageleha mevaser. There's so many in our world who are in need of healing, so many in our community, and we turn our prayers to those who seek healing with focus, with kavanah, and with love. Our community is especially praying for Colin Monroe in Barbat Aviva, Mary Lou Houle, Janet Watson, Paul Robillard, Elizabeth Hill, Kelso Silva, Professor Enrico Mascaro, Deborah Booker, Ori Bat Hila, Yigal Ben Sarah, Dick Feibelman, Ari Ben Talia, Annette Zerichian, Amy Seich, Robert Bloom, Annalise Stone, Bernard Tarr, Benjamin Horowitz, Bradley Dichter, Matteo Goldman, Judy Cook, Fruma Batarav, Jacob Vasonia, Dan Ruggiero, Toby Weiner, Svetlana Rabinovich, Dalia Harel, Esya Ruchavskaya, Amy Fassberg Kurtz, Eileen Arnone, Charles Atkins, Marilyn Breyer, Jean Sands, Roseanne Cohen, Doug Cohen, Tom Fiorino, Michelle Heller, Barry Levine, Joe Beeson. To those names we would add I would invite anyone participating at home to speak the name of loved ones for whom you're praying. And on page 77, we join in Misha Berach. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, a renewal of spirit, and let us say just a few brief announcements before we turn to our concluding prayer. Shabbat morning worship continues tomorrow at 9 a.m. Here at Temple for our lay-led Shabbat morning chevra. So you're most welcome to come and join and continue Shabbat. And for those in the age 1 week through about second grade set, and those who are part of their family, we have taught Shabbat tomorrow morning here in the back courtyard under the tent, and that's at 9:30 a.m. Chance to pray, a chance to play. Next Shabbat on Saturday, August 21st at 10 a.m., we have a community Shabbat service, which will be outside, weather permitting, otherwise inside. It's wonderful to see some of our Hebrew school students here, and this is a great service, especially for those in 7th grade, those becoming bar and bat mitzvah, to get more and more familiar with the Shabbat morning service, which you'll be leading. So that's next Saturday. And the most important thing is all the news that's fit to print is in your weekly shofar. So please do read that. Aleinu L'Shabeach is on page 78. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateku liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegoralenu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. We remain standing as we turn our thoughts to our loved ones who are no longer with us, those who have died in recent days, those whose Jahrzeiten, whose anniversaries of death occur this Shabbat. We're in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning and remembrance for Dorothy Staples Egbert, mother of Cantor Louise Treitman, mother-in-law of Rick Treitman, Muriel Rausch, mother of Zelena Rausch, mother-in-law of Seth Cohen, grandmother of Jacqueline, Michelle, and Anne. Maria Musto, mother of Anthony Musto, mother-in-law of Roxanne Musto, grandmother of Michael and Brandon. And we're in the period, and the Jahrzeiten of the following loved ones of our congregation occur this Shabbat: Marie Crichton, Riva Grassfield, Gilda B. Kramer, Sally Rosenberg, Leon Tanofsky, Julius Watsky, Francis Balkan, and Nancy Levine. If you're remembering someone this Shabbat here in the sanctuary or at home, I invite you to share your loved one's name at this time. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. Join together now in praising God's name, page 86. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon u'vyom echon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabam varach le'alam lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmeid kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Imru amin. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Now that we're in the month of Elul, there are two traditional things that we do to help prepare us for the high holidays. One is that we sing or recite Psalm 27, which you can find on page 8, which says the following: Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh, shivti bevet Adonai kol yamei chayai, lachazot b'noam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Just one thing I have asked of God, only this do I seek, to dwell in God's house all the days of my life, to behold divine sweetness and beauty, to gaze and delight at God's temple. So, like a friend, we hope to go to God's abode, to enter God's place during this season. And when we're done singing that, we'll hear a blast of the shofar, and our Friday night Shabbat will come to an end. I promise by the end of Elul, everyone will remember this melody that we sing each Elul. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Shivti bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai, lachazot b'noam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Lachazot b'noam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Shivti bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai, lachazot b'noam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Shabbat Shalom.